Yeah, okay, so here's our formal introduction for the recording. So hi again, I'm Hediye and I'm going to my second year. I'm doing a molecular genetics and microbiology specialist. And a fun fact about me is that I watch a lot of K-dramas.
And my name is Angela. I'm going into my fourth year. I do a cell molecular biology specialist, a psych major, and a physiology minor. And when I'm not online, I love being outside hiking.
Amazing. So the contents of this workshop are, we will first cover online learning, then time management, study tips, assessments, contacting professors, and lastly, we'll have a quick Q&A session. And here's our first section. So although we are moving towards going back to in-person, many of us still have online classes this year. So here are a few tips for online learning in university. But before we get started, let's do a quick poll and see how confident do you all feel about online learning, whether you feel like you're a pro or you're just relatively confident, or if you have never experienced online classes and don't know what to expect at all. Okay, so it seems like no one is a pro, but half of y'all are feeling relatively confident and half of y'all don't feel confident. And it's okay. This session is going to help you be more confident as you head into online learning for your online classes this year. Okay. So as you may have noticed when enrolling in your courses on Acorn, online classes could be either synchronous or asynchronous or a combination of both. For example, you could have a course that has asynchronous lectures and synchronous tutorials. So what these mean is basically synchronous classes require you to be present at a certain time, but asynchronous classes don't have any required real-time activities. And now that we know what different types of online classes are, here are a few tips for online classes. So if your lectures are synchronous, we strongly recommend you attend them live. And this is especially important since it helps you to stay on top of the course, and you can also get to ask your questions from your professors during class. But if for any reason you couldn't attend the live lecture, take advantage of the recording. But a quick note here is that make sure your class is being recorded if you're planning to not attend the lecture live. And you can check this with your syllabus for your course. And if your course does record the lectures, they are also a great resource if you're still confused about a topic discussed in class and want to go over it again, or if you just need a quick refresh before a test or assessment. And if your class has discussion boards or Piazza, use them to ask your questions, and other students and instructors will answer your question. Or you may even find that someone has asked your question before and the answers are already there. And just a quick note here, discussion boards are on Quarkus and Piazza is a different platform that's similar to discussion boards. And if your course is using that, the instructors will provide the link for you. So don't worry about it. And lastly, take advantage of office hours to ask your questions from the profs. And even if you don't have questions, you can still attend the office hours to listen to what other students have to ask. And most of the time you will gain something from the session. And again, check with your syllabus to find when the office hours happen for your class. And here are a few more tips for online classes. So even though you can't physically see your classmates in online classes, it doesn't mean you can't connect with them. And there are many resources and opportunities that allow you to connect with your classmates and make friends. So one is study groups that we will talk about more later in the workshop. And you can connect with your classmates through breakout groups in your synchronous classes. And there are also many group chats out there that you can usually find them by searching on Facebook. And another important tip is to stay organized. So read your syllabus and put the important dates in your calendar and take note of all the upcoming deadlines and test dates and assignments so you're always prepared and don't let your work pile up. And this is especially important for your asynchronous classes where you have to go at your own pace, but at the same time, you want to avoid falling behind. Okay, so when you're taking online classes, a common phenomenon that happens is Zoom fatigue, which is basically referring to the exhausting nature of Zoom calls or any other video chatting platforms. And so the best way to avoid it is to try to take breaks from your screen and avoid back-to-back Zoom calls. But this isn't always possible. So here are a few solutions based on the identified causes of Zoom fatigue. So let's go over why Zoom fatigue is exhausting. First, because we are seeing a real-time video of ourselves, which is unlike the in-person experience. As well, in Zoom calls, there are many eyes staring at you from up close. And also you have a reduced mobility compared to in-person. And again, compared to the in-person experience, communicating on video chatting platforms increases your cognitive load as you have to be conscious of how you're sending your signals. For example, you may find that you have to nod very hard so that other people may notice you're nodding. So to minimize Zoom fatigue, it is recommended to use the hide self view option on Zoom. So you're not seeing a real-time video of yourself. And you can also increase the distance between your eyes and the screen and exit the full screen and make the window smaller so it doesn't feel like many people are staring at you from up close. And if you're using your camera, you can place your webcam in a way that gives you more room for movement, and you can consider giving yourself audio-only breaks so you can relax and move around a little bit in between your calls.
So our next section, we're going to talk to you about how you can manage your time effectively while avoiding burnout. So it's really important to keep track of your deadlines, and there's a few ways you can do this. And basically, you can have physical or digital calendars, such as a calendar app that you can place all of your assignments in for the week, as well as having an Excel master list of all of your assignments and due dates that you can set up at the beginning of the semester in your syllabus, and just keep track of all your deadlines for classes that way too. So some common problems that can come up when trying to reach deadlines are time management issues and procrastination. So when you're having time management issues, it's often because you're having a difficult time actually managing your workload. And this could be due to many reasons, including having poor planning skills, failing to prioritize your tasks, and also not having clear enough goals for what you want to accomplish that day. And procrastination is similar, but a bit different in the sense that it's more to do with emotional management, which could be caused by a couple of reasons, including perfectionisms and fearing failure, not being invested in your task, and also trying to avoid uncomfortable situations that you might be dreading. In order to beat procrastination, we do have a few tips for you. And basically, our first one is to do the task for just 10 minutes to kind of feel out how long you think it's going to take you to complete the whole thing, just so you get a better idea when you're planning. Next is to write down your tasks, again, in a list or a calendar, if that works best for you. Also, break your task into smaller ones so you're not studying for hours at a time, and instead you're doing maybe an hour-long session and dividing up your tasks throughout the day instead of doing it all at once. Also, reward yourself for working on your task. Grab a snack after you've finished a really hard essay paragraph. That might be really helpful. Also, be realistic about your to-do list. You're not going to cram in 18 assignments in one day. So just be realistic about what you think you can accomplish during that time. And also, the most important tip we have is to take breaks. So a lot of time at university, you hear a lot about toxic productivity culture and people being really overworked and not taking enough breaks. And this can actually be really, really bad, not only for your physical, but mental health. You can get burnout. And a lot of times students feel really guilty about not studying all the time because they feel like they're not being a productive student or they're not getting the most of the university experience. But just please keep in mind that it's not okay to be stressing all the time about school, and you can't replace your sleep schedule with coffee and studying and working, because you're just going to burn out and it's not going to be productive at all. So it's not a trade-off to be a successful student and a healthy one. You can do both, and you are going to do both because we're going to teach you how. But our main quote we have for you is that sometimes the most productive thing you can do is rest. So make sure you're eating enough, you're sleeping enough, and you're talking to your friends if you're feeling stressed out. That's really productive instead of just trying to cram everything at once. The best thing you can do is take a break. So if you are feeling anxious about schoolwork, which will definitely come up, it's totally normal. A few strategies we have for managing this would be to find a hobby or something you can do, like a sport, outside of class time, so you're taking your mind off of school. Look after your physical health. For example, make sure you're getting plenty of sleep, at least 7 to 9 hours. Exercise and eat healthy. There's a lot of programs offered by the University of Toronto gyms that you can learn about exercising and healthy eating habits. During reading week, it's a great time to do reading, but it's also a great time to take a couple days off from school and not think about it all the time. Also, don't forget to talk to a trusted person about your feelings, whether this is a friend or a counselor. Here at St. Mike's, we have our wellness counselor, Nicola Blanc, and her email is down here if you ever want to reach out to her. She's a great resource. And as a commuter myself, some tips that I want to share with you are to plan ahead. Don't be rushing about in the morning without an idea of when your train is. Do some reading if it's quiet enough. It's a great time, to take an hour just to read and relax a bit, or just catch up on class readings too. Bring your headphones because it's really nice to listen to music, so you're not just listening to the train or people around you. You can be in your own space that way. It's also really great to find commuter buddies or friends you can leave with or pick up along the way, so you're not as lonely and you can talk about anything to relax. Find your transit, make sure your transit money is topped up because you don't want to be stranded anywhere. So always have your Presto card on you if you are a commuter. And also find a seat for long rides because a lot of the time you're going to be bringing your laptop to school and a water bottle. So your bag may not seem heavy when you're leaving the house, but if you're standing up with it for 2 hours, it is going to feel really heavy.
Okay, so our next section is study tips. But first thing to note here is that every person has a different learning style. So people could be visual learners or auditory learners, or someone might learn best by reading and writing. Someone might be a kinesthetic learner, or even a combination of these learning styles. So finding your learning style could help you pick the best study method for you that is tailored to your learning style. And to find out your learning style, you can either observe your past experiences with different types of activities and see what things worked for you, and based on that, find your learning style. And there are also some online quizzes out there that help you find your learning style. And we also have a learning strategist here at U of T and St. Mike's who can help you find the best study method for you. And here are some of the examples of different study methods you may want to try. So you may find that color coding your notes really helps you learn, or you may learn best by discussing a topic with your study group, or you may find that you learn best when you take notes and reread them. Another great strategy for learning is doing hands-on activities or even teaching someone else the material you're studying. And so a note here is that different classes may require different learning strategies. So be open to experimenting with different methods and don't be afraid of changing your study method if you find it's not working well. And again, you can always contact a learning strategist if you need any guidance or help regarding your study methods. And just like study methods, there are many different note-taking methods you may want to try. You can cater your method towards your class and choose the one that you personally prefer. And a few examples of note-taking methods are outlining, Cornell method, mind webs, and so many other ones that you may want to check out. And you can take your notes either by pen or paper, or by computer, or a combination of both of these, so depending on your personal preferences and the class you're taking. And so the key here is to try out different note-taking methods to find out which one works best for you and for the subject you're studying. And again, be open to experimenting with different methods and trying new ones. So now we're asking you to put in the chat which note-taking methods you prefer, and you can also tell us like why you prefer that. And yeah. We'll wait a minute for you to think and write your answers. Okay, we have an answer. I like typing because I can organize my notes any way I want. Yeah, that's great. All right, you're staying here for 10 more seconds if you want to answer for this question. Okay, have another answer. I like to add side notes whenever needed as they help me in remembering particular remark made during lectures. Yeah, that's a great tip. I like it. Thank you to all those who answered, and I think we're move on now. So, wait, let me. Okay. So now here are some study tips that we have for y'all. So the first is to review regularly. It's usually the case that course material build on top of the previous ones, and it could be pretty fast-paced too. So it's best if you have already mastered their previous modules, and also this results in a less stressful exam season as you don't have a pile of modules to go through in one night. And our next tip is to avoid cramming. And by starting studying early, you can ensure that you have enough time to fully prepare for your test, and you have more opportunities to ask your questions. And this one also helps you figure out the best learning style for you, as you may have to do a few try and errors before you find the right learning style for yourself. And this takes time. And our last tip is when doing your readings, use the active recall method, which is a very effective study method, and it saves you a ton of time as you're absorbing the information as you read, and you're not just passively reading a text. So this technique is pretty much trying to go over the material as you read them and try to see which parts you have learned and which parts you still need to practice. And one thing to keep in mind here is that it takes practice to master any study technique. And if you find yourself not reviewing regularly, or if you find yourself like cramming for your test, please don't give up. You have all your undergrad to improve, and no one expects you to be perfect from day one. And this brings us to this really important tip, which is to try to develop a growth mindset. And this means to have a belief that you can always improve with effort, strategy, and help. And please remember that you're not coming to university to prove your intelligence and talents, but you're here to learn and to grow your intelligence. In fact, brain can grow like a muscle does. And so when you fail at something, you still have many opportunities to improve. And this brings us to our quote from Jordan Peterson, which is, don't compare yourself with other people, but compare yourself with who you were yesterday. Each person is on their own journey, and it's not fair to compare yourself with someone with different strengths and weaknesses than you. Okay, this brings us to the end of our study tips section. If you have any other tips, you can write them here, either on the screen, or you can put that in the chat if you prefer that one. Yeah, definitely. Study with friends is a great method. Yeah, I think it's the only fair thing to like, it's only fair to like compete with yourself and not with other people. That's great too. Yeah, changing study spots is important, especially if you're taking online classes. It's like very tiring to sit in one place all the time. Okay, I think we're staying here for 10 more seconds. So if you want to answer. Yeah, open for spot quizzes. Okay, thank you everyone. I guess we move on now.
Okay, so our fourth section today is all about assessments and what you can expect from your tests, exams, and more. So assessments can come in a lot of different packages. They can be exams, midterms, or final projects and essays. And throughout the semester, you may have quizzes or presentations or lab reports or anything else that may be due. So assessments can be, when they're online, we've seen open or closed book. So basically, when you have an open book assessment, you will have access to notes, course materials, lecture recordings, or anything deemed accessible by your professor. So you may not have access to outside resources, such as you might not be able to Google course material that wasn't discussed. So just be mindful of that. But if you are, a tip we have for you is to not rely on just looking things up during the test, because while it may seem, accessible, it's actually very time consuming and you may not have enough time to actually finish the exam if it's timed. So when you have a closed book exam, it's a bit different because you aren't allowed to use any class materials or outside resources. So this means no Googling and no access to course materials. However, these could also be proctored and you may need to have your camera on and somebody watches you write them. So some assessments might be timed, for example, a synchronous 2-hour allotted time to complete an exam or a test, and others could be open for a longer period of time, such as 2 days that you may be doing a lot of essay writing for. For in-person exams, which you may have a couple this year, there are a few things that you definitely should bring, including pencils, erasers, pens, calculators, your T-card, which you will need to sign in and verify it's you writing the test, or any other necessary items to complete your exam that are deemed appropriate by your professor. So items that may be prohibited will be specified within your syllabus or your class notes. And these can be different for different classes and departments, but a lot of time it includes notes, calculators, and your smartwatches, and sometimes dictionaries may also not be allowed. So if you do end up violating any of these rules, it is considered cheating, which is called an academic offense, and that does stay on your university record. So some important things to know when preparing for your assessments is that the ASSU, or the Arts and Science Student Union, has a midterm bank, and you can email them to access any of these past tests. There's also the old exam repository, which is offered by the U of T libraries online. And just to note that most exams do not actually include the answers, but they do include all the questions, which is a really good practice, especially with a study group. So when you're reviewing past papers and tests, they're great tools for reviewing and finding out what exactly to expect on your assessments from that class. But speaking of study groups, what is an RSG? So RSGs are recognized study groups, and it's basically a group of 3 to 6 students that come together from one of their courses to study together each week. And during this program, you can complete progress assignments and assessments throughout the semester. And it's recognized because leaders and members of these groups do get a CCR credit. And just for a reminder, CCR credits go on your extracurricular records. So if you're applying to a position, they can see, things you've done if they're going to hire you, and just to know about a bit of your experience about what you've done during your time at U of T. So a similar program that is also offered is study hubs, which are from the University of Toronto Student Life Association. So in these sessions, you can join Zoom calls in groups and have a peer mentor monitor you. So at the beginning of the session, you tell them what your study goal is and what you want to achieve by the end of the 2-hour call. And these also go towards your CCR. Some St. Mike's specific services we have include the SMC Success Center. We also have a learning strategist, which you can book an appointment for. The email is on the screen for Kathleen Ogden. We also have specific success centers for math, computer science, and more. So at the SMC Success Center is specifically for students in our college, but learning strategists can be accessed both from St. Mike's and from other offerings around the university. So lastly, something pretty important for us trying to study for your assessments would be to have a textbook. So the U of T bookstore has a lot of your needs covered for textbooks. They have specific class lists you can access before your class starts. And it's just places, like a great place to find them online or in store, but there's also other places online, such as Facebook exchange groups, where you can talk to upper years and maybe get a textbook that they don't need for a cheaper price. You can also check out publisher websites like Pearson they will offer textbooks as well. And also Amazon may have an updated copy too. The types of textbooks you can buy are usually the traditional bound textbooks that they're the hardcover or soft cover. You can buy a loose leaf, which doesn't have any cover at all, and you actually have to purchase your own binder for it. There's also e-text, which you may access online, but will probably need an access code for, which can be purchased from the digital publisher bookshelf that your professor will link to in the syllabus, and also PDFs, which are pretty accessible online. And other types of course material you may need would be lab manuals, novels, or workbooks. And just a note is oftentimes professors will have access to textbooks they've written, and they may be able to give you a free PDF. So we kind of advise you to wait until your first day of class to really purchase all your textbooks, because profs may explain other things they have access to, and you may be able to get it for free or for a lot cheaper. But speaking of professors, we have a few tips here for you to contact your profs or your TAs if you need to ask them a question. So you want to talk to your prof. There are many good ways to approach your profs, but some steps to take are to first get familiar with your syllabus and the class etiquette the professor and TAs expect. And from here, you can look out for resources such as office hours, quickest tabs, or if you are available to, ask before, during, or after class. Professors and TAs will definitely be happy to assist you and answer your questions. So just some email etiquette to note when you do want to reach out to a professor outside of class is to not be too casual or too formal. Just try to be yourself. Don't ramble too much, because the professor may get confused about what you're actually asking for. And don't forget to check for spelling and grammatical errors, just so nothing gets confused in the email. One thing to do is to definitely be yourself and be succinct and clear with what you want to ask the professor, and just put all your questions in one place and just ask some detail. For example, if you are wondering about a specific lecture slide during a specific lecture, just make sure you mention that to them so they have the ability to access that for you. And put in your course code and topic you're interested in speaking about in the subject line of the email, so professors know what to expect, as well as keeping them organized so they remember you are a student in their class and not a spam email. And I also just noticed we had a question in the chat that I'm going to read out. Do we get prepared lecture notes of the courses in advance or after each lecture? So this is actually depends on your class. I've had access to lecture notes before, and I've also had professors post them after class. So that's just something to keep in mind. The professor will definitely let you know on the first day of class what to expect, but for now, just expect that you may have either one. All right, I'm gonna move on to the next one, which is that professors do get many emails every day. So do not worry if they are not responding to you right away. They aren't ignoring you. They may just not have enough time to respond at the moment. So don't be afraid to send a follow-up email asking if they received your initial one, which they may not have. It may have gone to their spam if you didn't put the subject line in there with the course code. And if they have any information they can offer you. Always good to follow up. So now that you know all these tips and tricks to be a successful student, and you're thinking, well, how am I going to take my breaks? Well, U of T does offer you a free movie streaming service called Criterion On Demand, alongside some others. But it's great to check out a lot of free movies you have access to as a U of T student now, which is really fun. So some things to look out for next is orientation week, which starts on September 1st. It's like 11 days away, I think. And you can check out our Instagram page at SMC_orientation for updates, and also check out any more academic events during O Week 2 for more information on how you can be a successful student. So we just have some resources. They're all linked here, even though they're not underlined. You can click on any of these to see the resources we've talked about through this presentation. And we thank you for watching. If you have any more questions, you can put them in the chat.
Hey guys, fantastic presentation. We have a good number of questions in the form here, so let's start with those. To kick off, the first question is, do all courses use textbooks?
I'll answer this question first. Not all courses will use textbooks, but sometimes they will, and these could be general textbooks or textbooks that profs have written. But just know that it could Like most do, but some actually do not. You may have different types of books like novels you'll have to read, or you'll have to purchase a workbook or a lab manual for a lab, but it just depends on the class.
Yeah, and many of the courses, like some of them, especially for like, I think humanities, the professor provides you with the links for readings for each class. And that's an option too, so like you don't have a textbook necessarily.
Perfect. The next question is, what's the biggest difference between online and in-person learning in terms of studying and taking notes?
Well, something that I find is in asynchronous classes, you will have access to the lecture recordings. So when you're taking notes, you can actually pause the lecture and take more detailed notes at that time, instead of when you're in-person learning and you just have to kind of go with the prof. And then if you have access to recordings after, go back and add your detail. I find that studying online takes a lot of time during the lecture because you're writing down a lot of detail, whereas studying in person takes a lot of time outside of lecture hours to go into more detail.
Sounds good. Let's jump to the next question, which asks, for online synchronous courses, do we have access to recordings for future references?
Okay, so I think it depends on the course you're taking, so definitely check with your syllabus and your prof. Many of the classes do provide the recordings, but there are also some of them that don't record the sessions, so definitely check it with your syllabus.
Great. So let's move to the next question. It asks, is all course material for asynchronous courses posted before the course starts, or is it released periodically like a synchronous course?
This does depend on the class. I've had classes where everything was posted at once and you kind of timed yourself each week doing that, but I've also had it posted by the prof at the appropriate time you should be watching the material. So this also depends on the class, but you can see that in your syllabus.
Fantastic answer, Angela, because that ties us right into the next question, which is, where can I find the syllabus for my courses?
The syllabus for your courses will be available on the Quirkus tab for your course, which can be accessed online, and you'll find it right there. Your prof will probably have it in a syllabus tab right when you join your course.
Sounds good. The next question I also personally would like to know the answer to. It is, how early should I start studying for a test?
So I guess it depends on what type of learner you are. Yeah, and what type of schedule you have. I think it's best if you try to plan and see what like how many tests and assessments are coming up, and then plan in a way that you get to do all your studying. It really varies depending on like how much workload you have, or like how much time you take to like study. Yeah.
All right, cool. The next question is kind of specific. How can I figure out what my studying style is?
Okay, so as I said, it's great to like observe your experiences with like your past experiences. Like if you have studied in a way before and it really worked, that may be your studying style. Or like if it didn't work, you know that you can try different ones. And again, if you still don't know exactly like what your studying style is, you can check out the learning strategists here at U of T and St. Mike's, and they can definitely help you find out like how to study best for yourself.
Great, thank you for that. Another question we have here says, what sort of accommodations may be provided by professors for international students who are unable to reach before September 9th?
I'm sure a lot of us are unsure about the return to in-person learning, but we did receive an email that some professors would be able to, and students have been asking for them to post lecture recordings beforehand, just in case students cannot be able to come to campus by then. But I think we're still waiting for like some confirmation on that. But I'm sure your professor will let you know what accommodations they will have at the beginning in an announcement on the Quarkus tab.
Yeah, and I think they have announced that like until September 22nd, there is the online alternative for the in-person classes. So if you're still not in Canada, you can still attend your classes online. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you both. We have a few final questions here. The next one asks, do you have any tips on how to use the active recall method when studying for a test or assessment?
Yeah, so I guess when you're doing like you're reading your slides or doing your readings, so the active recall is like you read a part of the text and before moving on to the next part, you just try to go over it in your head and see like which parts you understood the first time and which parts you still need to practice. And so before moving on, you just go over the parts that you still don't know in your head. And yeah, I guess that's it.
Okay, let's jump to a question from the chat. It says, can we interact physically with professors after we come to campus once flights are resumed, being international students registered for online synchronous courses?
So you will have access to asking your prof questions during class in the allotted 1 to 3 hour period. And I think it's up to the prof's discretion if they want to hold physical office hours, but these will likely still be done online, so it's more accessible to all students in the class. But you will have access to them during class if you want to talk to them about anything.
There's another question in the chat, so we'll jump to that next. It states, I might be getting ahead, but has there been any update on the structure of classes if the delay in arrival goes beyond September 23rd? A lot of students are still awaiting their visas.
I'm not sure of any update that's been announced. I'm sure that some profs will, if you do reach out to them stating what your case is, that they will accommodate for you if they have any lecture recordings available, but I think that's up to the discretion of your professor. And I don't think we have any more updates on that.
Sounds good. We enter the home stretch now. We have 3 last questions here. If anyone has any final questions, please drop them in the chat or in the form where you just sent, but we move on to the final 3. What's your favorite tip for student success? And please share your experiences.
So I guess I go first. My favorite tip is to like develop a growth mindset. Talking of experience, for example, last year when I was in my first year, there was a lot of like courses that like it happened frequently that I felt the imposter syndrome, like my classmates were so much better than me and I could never be as good as them. But at the end of the semester, I found that each of us gained what we needed from the course, and we all got good grades. So it wasn't like because I felt that, I wasn't as good as my classmates that I couldn't be like I couldn't grow and I couldn't learn the course material. And yeah, that really helped with my stress levels as well. So knowing that even if I don't feel really confident in course material, I can still learn them and it's going to be okay.
I think my favorite student success tip would be don't be afraid to try something new. If something's not working for you, it's okay to move on to something else. I mean, I'm going into my 4th year, and the studying I did in my 1st year is a lot different than what I'm doing now. So I recommend studying with just a group of friends, and it's so important to make friends at school. So I think it's really fun to do new things with them.
Sounds great. So let's move on to the next question, which is, how do I set up a good study spot / desk?
Okay, so I guess for your online classes that you're sitting at your own desk, I think you have to, it's best to have your desk in a way that's most comfortable for yourself. So it's like you are comfortable to like sit there for at least an hour, and then you have enough space on your desk to like move around a little bit. But I guess it's more like personal preferences. If you want to like design your space in a way that makes you happy, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to share that, like, honestly, less is more. Like, when I started in 1st year, I had all these pens and colors and everything, and I actually found that to be really distracting. So now when I'm studying, I just have exactly what I need: a notebook, pencil, my computer, and some water. And if I need anything else, I'll have it. But just try not to clutter it too much, because it may be distracting for you, even though you think it's helping.
Perfect. Thank you both for the insights. The next question we have states, what happens during office hours?
So when you're attending office hours, it could be either structured or not. So most of the time it won't be very structured. Well, the professor will just open up the floor to anyone who has questions about that week's course material or any upcoming assessments. But sometimes professors will have a bit of a structure. They'll maybe start reviewing of that week's topic a bit and then go into questions. But it's just basically a time for you to ask one-on-one questions with your prof or talk about anything upcoming that you need clarification on.
Perfect. And I have one final question that comes actually from me. I'm just curious for both your kind of advice, any last pieces of advice you want to provide to the incoming 1st year students regarding student success or beyond. If not, we can wrap up here.
I mean, honestly, I've already said, like, just try to be open to new experiences, but also try to be open to new people and meeting people in your classes, because, like, honestly, what I've learned at U of T, not only just through courses I've taken, but in general, is just, it's so important to actually make social connections with people. It's going to make your time here so much happier and healthier, and you'll be opening yourself up to a lot of new experiences, which is really great. And I noted in the chat, there's just one thing about any information about updates on Quirkus. Also, we just had an update that for any international students seeking accommodation, you can reach out to your college registrar or email ask.artsci, so ARTSCI @utoronto.ca. That's a message in the chat, just if anyone has any more questions about that. But yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, and I guess my final advice is to just try to, like Angela said, try to look for new experiences, and if you have time for it, definitely consider getting involved in like on campus and meet new people. And that's really great to like, add something to your university experience, like more than just academics.
Fantastic. Thank you both for hosting a wonderful session. This is our last workshop. It's been a pleasure. I will pass it off to Sienna to wrap us up for the summer.
Yes, oh my gosh, thank you so much, Hediye and Angela, for our final workshop. And a huge thank you to Shropa, Marie, and Joseph for being here every single morning to answer questions, work on creating the closed captioning for these workshops, and really supporting every single Marshall team that has come on to deliver workshop information. Huge thank you to all of you. To everyone here present, everyone watching the recording, please make sure to check out Quercus with the full orientation week schedule. Descriptions are coming out beginning to mid next week. That's like full details of like what exactly is happening in each event. And also make sure to sign up for in-person events if you're available and if you are in Toronto, and sign up for a tour. The link is in our Instagram bio, and it is also on Quercus under orientation week. So if you do have any questions, check Quercus first. If you can't find the answer, you can send us an email at smcorientation@gmail.com. Thank you so much, everyone, for always coming and supporting our workshops.